Good morning, you're listening to The Breakfast Grill. I'm Lynn Mark. Even before COVID-19, Top Glove, the world's largest glove maker, was touted as an industry darling. But the global pandemic has shot earnings well past what anyone expected. In its latest quarter, 1.3 billion ringgit in net profit was more than an 18 times annual increase. So to help us understand where Top Glove is going to go in the future, today we're speaking with Datuk Lee Kim Miao, Managing Director of Top Glove Corp. Datuk Lee, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Lynn.
Looking at your stellar earnings, how sustainable is this?
Yes, at least for the next few years, Lynn, we foresee that the demand will still be strong because for the past few weeks, we have been talking to a lot of our customers, and they told us that they practically have no stock in their warehouse. And containers that even before the arrival of their containers to the port of destination, the gloves were all sold beforehand. So we foresee that the demand will still continue to increase, and especially with the recent announcements that countries like UK, Spain, and even America, they're very worried about the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic. So all this basically show that the situation is not under control yet, and the demand for gloves we foresee for the next 2 years or even longer will still be very strong.
But Dato, the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world are also racing right now to find a vaccine for COVID-19. The average estimate appears to be that we might have a vaccine by the end of 2021. So where does that leave Top Glove?
Possible, but if you look at the history of vaccines in the world, from the moment when they detected a virus till the moment when they really go full stream to produce and to supply the vaccines to the population. And we foresee that it will still be quite a while before the vaccine is proven effective and also being available to the greater population. I think right now a lot of countries will probably have to decide who will take the vaccines first. And as you know, COVID-19 is a virus, is a sickness that affects all segments of the population. So as long as someone is not vaccinated, there is still a possibility that the person could be infected with COVID-19.
But if you look beyond, say, 2022, when the ASPs are expected to normalize and supply and demand may reach some kind of equilibrium, should investors still be ascribing a PE ratio of over 30 times to Top Glove, which is, essentially a commodities product?
Yes, but if you look at past trends like, for instance, H1N1, SARS, every time when you have these health problems, you have these virus problems, you basically push gloves to the forefront. And mind you, during that time, it was basically SARS and H1 limited to a smaller number of countries as compared to now, where the concern is worldwide. So we foresee that even after the COVID-19 has slowed down, we believe that countries will still allocate a biggest percentage of their budget for healthcare. And also because of the greater hygiene awareness and the fact that gloves are disposable and highly affordable, I believe that the demand for gloves will continue to grow. In fact, we expect that the gloves will grow in higher percentages as compared to previously. You probably would have heard that in the past, the glove increase or the demand increase is roughly about 10% every year. So for 2020, we experienced more than 20%. And for 2021, we are anticipating about 25% and probably tapering a little bit off by 2022 to about 15%. Still, the 15% is higher than what we are accustomed to, which is about 10% every year. So I foresee for Top Glove and for the industry, there's a lot of promise. There will always be a need for gloves. There are no substitutes for gloves. And gloves will still play a very important part in everyone's lives.
But at the same time, glove manufacturing has become a very popular industry to be in these days. And we've seen a number of new entrants into this market. I mean, Inex Technologies, Aspen Group, to name a few. And while they don't currently have the scale of Top Glove's production capacity, given that 2 or 3 years, it could be that they may start carving out larger slices of the pie. So, the more accommodating environment that you describe for the glove making industry as a whole, Dato', Top Glove may not be able to capitalize on as much of it as you might expect. Does that worry you?
Not at all, Lynn. In fact, we say welcome to the club. And the situation currently reminds me of what happened in the early 90s, where the Ministry of Trade and Industry issued more than 250 licenses, manufacturing licenses, for companies to manufacture gloves. So currently we have something quite similar, but we have been in this business for 30 years, and we are well versed and very familiar with competition in the market. I believe that the bigger players will still have a bigger advantage in terms of their diversity, in terms of their product range, in terms of their wide market reach, and in terms of their cost efficiencies as well as economies of scale.
Will Top Glove also run the risk of becoming so large that it becomes hard to manage? Because you're spending 1.9 billion ringgit alone for FY 2021. That's certainly a very ambitious spending target. And we have seen industry leaders topple before. Are you agile enough to change with the times, or will you eventually lose out to these smaller companies that will be able to pivot quicker than Top Glove with your size?
Yes, I think you mentioned very correctly, where Top Glove is always telling our employees that in the past it has always been the big fish eating the small fish. Nowadays it's the small and the faster fish that might be going after the big and slow fish. So in order to grow and moving towards the direction of aspiring to be a Fortune Global 500 company by 2035, we really have to build a good foundation. For instance, recently we have spent a lot of money in our IT modernization, in our digitalization. And so we are very much getting ready for the next phase of growth, where we see more and more related business are coming into the fold. And for this reason, every year we hire about 1,500 new graduates.
But speaking of workforce, Dato', Top Glove has had a very persistent shadow of allegations of worker maltreatment. And right now, it's still currently under a US Customs detention order that was put in place in July. Now, Top Glove has come out to say that it expects to resolve this by the end of this year. But I guess the question that comes to investors' minds is, why does this keep happening? Back in 2018, Top Glove was also facing allegations of worker mistreatment. After a certain point, you have to wonder whether, there's some truth to it, right? There's no smoke without a fire.
Yes, I think you have pointed out rightly, Lynn. We got to know the seriousness of the need to comply with the International Labour Organization's requirements way back end of 2018, when news broke out in The Guardian about Top Glove's recruitment policies. And since then, if you look at it, we have improved by leaps and bounds. I believe that if you are the world's biggest glove manufacturer, naturally the attention will be very much on you. And for a lot of NGOs and other parties, what else would be more effective than targeting the world's biggest? And so by doing that, you raise a lot of awareness. But never mind, we take it in good state. As the biggest glove manufacturer and as a big corporation, it's also our responsibility to do more in this area. So our recent engagement with the CBP has been very productive. They have been very responsive and professional in their dealings. And we have already submitted our remediation plans, and they are currently looking at it. In about a month's time, it's our hope that it could be resolved. We are also glad that the government has recently talked about minimum standards of accommodation for the migrant workers, which comes into effect from September 1st. Because by doing so, everyone has to follow, and there you create the level playing field, and also will be giving Malaysia a good name that ultimately Malaysian government and the Malaysian industry cares about migrant workers.
I've been speaking with Datuk Lee Kim Miao, Managing Director at Top Glove Corp. Up next, a look at Top Glove's raw material supply chain and its prospects for listing in Hong Kong. Stay tuned. Bfm 89.9.
You are listening to the BFM Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile.
BFM 89.9, you're listening to The Breakfast Grill, where I'm speaking with Datuk Lee Kim Miao, Managing Director at Top Glove. Datuk, there have been reports that Top Glove is considering a listing on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Why the decision to list in Hong Kong now? Is it just that you're out to capitalize on the momentum that we're seeing in glove and healthcare stocks, despite the stellar earnings that you've received?
Actually, Lynn, we have this intention or this dream of doing so at least 5 years ago, just before we did our dual listing in Singapore. Reason being that Singapore and Hong Kong both are very famous financial centers. And basically, if you are the world's largest supplier of gloves, manufacturer of gloves, it's good to be in these places so that you are more visible, and at the same time to provide the investors an additional avenue for them to buy and sell their shares. And also, most importantly, to provide the visibility that we could attract other companies that could do joint ventures with us, that we could do M&As, that we could do many, many other things as we go along.
But do you have concrete plans for this money, or is it more of a visibility exercise?
Yes, we do. I think we have concrete plans to raise US 500 million to US 1 billion for MMA efforts, for acquisition efforts, for strategic business tie-up efforts, and etc. And certainly, we will not stop working, and Top Glove will continue to find new and good and related business to add on to its portfolio. Because to grow to the kind of size that we aspire to be a Fortune Global 500 company, we need to increase our size from the present moment by at least 20 times. We need to continue to increase. We need to continue to cultivate talent so that when we are ready, when the opportunity comes.
But what about also, at the same time, providing shareholder value? Because thus far, Top Glove has recorded incredible earnings for its financial year 2020. And recently, you've also gone on a spate of share buybacks so far. In fact, you've spent over 300 million ringgit on buying back your own shares. There have been questions over why not use this money for more dividend payouts to reward your shareholders.
Yes, we felt that our shares were undervalued at that point in time, and with the thought that we know what is coming forward in our operations and the demand of gloves in the market. However, we will not forget the need to continue to reward our shareholders, and we have been also mindful that we would like to stick to our policy of at least 50% of our profit will go to our shareholders.
That's quite a fine line to balance, isn't it? I mean, maintaining a dividend payout ratio of over 50% while also conserving cash for the ambitious expansion plans that you've laid out.
No problem. Yeah, we have looked at the figures. We have more than sufficient. I think, again, our expansion is important. And some of our plans would be to include the fact that we are going into the manufacturing of the nitrile latex concentrate, and which is a component that is necessary to be a successful supplier of nitrile gloves. You probably would have heard about recently that there have been a shortage of nitrile raw materials. In fact, we already had this plan since last year or even the year before that, that we want to go into our own nitrile latex manufacturing plant. Just like the 2 latex concentrate plants that we have in Thailand. Way back, I remember more than 10 more than about 15 years ago, we have customers that ask us now that Top Glove, you are the biggest natural rubber glove manufacturer in the world. Where do I stand if one day you do not have latex, natural rubber latex to manufacture your gloves? And the same thought came in about 2-3 years ago, whereby we felt that there's a need for us to go into nitrile latex concentrate plant. And by having security of source would be a good assurance to the customer that if you do business with Top Glove, you don't have to worry about shortage of raw materials. So all these are part and parcel of our plan, which we intend to put our cash reserve into good use.
So when can we expect to see a nitrile latex plant from Top Glove?
Should be in about 2 years' time.
But in the meantime, do you have enough in the way of confirmed supply to weather this shortage in NBR?
Yes, we have our own ways and means to cope with this challenge, although it is a bit more difficult, but we are used to it because we have been in business for the past 30 years. We have gone through these few cycles already. So it's part and parcel of our job to ensure that we continue to run our plants fully and continue to ship out as many gloves as possible.
Yes, but at the same time, I mean, COVID-19 is certainly the black swan event of the decade. There are concerns that China may be buying up stock of NBR for its own domestic use. How much is that going to squeeze the market?
Only partly, actually, because China's nitrile latex supply constitutes a very small percentage of the world supply of nitrile latex. So not a big concern at the moment, because we have many other suppliers in other parts of the world. Like we have a few in Korea, a few in Taiwan, and we have even in Malaysia, we have a very strong nitrile latex supplier in Sintoma. And then we have a supplier in Thailand. And also we have suppliers in other parts of the world, in Europe, and even other countries outside Europe. So far so good. It's just that it takes a little bit of time for these nitrile latex concentrate factories to increase their capacity. So it's for this reason that it makes us more determined and putting in a greater sense of urgency to ensure that our nitrile latex concentrate factory will come on stream quickly. And we have always assured other suppliers, other nitrile latex concentrate suppliers, that the market is big enough for all of us to do business together. Exactly like what happened to the natural rubber latex concentrate factories. Even more than 15 years after we set up our 2 latex concentrate factories in Thailand, we have continued to purchase latex, at least 40% of it from other latex concentrate suppliers in Thailand.
So taking a look as well at Top Glove's future, it's well recognized that keeping costs in check is largely due to the current top management as well as Tan Sri Lim Wichai's oversight. But is there sufficient empowerment to the second or third liners to be involved in the business? I mean, this is always the concern, succession, when it comes to family-run businesses, especially since Tan Sri's son is also in Top Glove.
Yes, I think the son is doing very well now. He has been in business for more than 8 years, and he's taking up the additional responsibilities very well. And he's getting a lot of coaching from the colleagues. And good thing about Top Glove is that teamwork has been very strong. And we have a lot of capable new talents. And we also have the assistance of advisors to take us to the next level. And basically, a lot of delegation has also been given to the respective factory managers as well. And Top Glove, our chairman, Tan Sri Lim, has always said that all the Top Glove's employees are children of the group. So meaning that everyone has the opportunity to move up the career path to be a manager, to be a general manager, to be a director, to be a managing director, or even to be the executive chairman in future. So we have paid a lot of attention in this area as far as recruitment of talent is concerned. We believe that it's good to grow our talent. We do not believe in taking other companies' employees, especially our competitors' employees, because we have to play our part to grow our local talent. And even recently, in terms of local workers, we have also responded well to the government's call to give more priority to employ our own local workers. Since last year, till now, we have employed about 1,500 to 200 local workers. So all these, I think, in place. So far, so good. And we have also paid a lot of attention on succession planning. We have this KPI of tracking our succession cover ratio. And every year we look at this ratio, and every year we aspire to grow the ratio so that in future to come, for every position, senior position that we have, we hope to have a minimum cover ratio of at least 3. That means we have 3 capable candidates to be able to take the position of the incumbent.
And from a shareholder perspective, Datuk, how should we value Top Glove then? Are you a consumer goods company or are you a manufacturing company? Because right now, because the price to earnings assigned to each of these respectively is quite different.
Yes, we are a healthcare providing company. I like to take it that the business that we are in is very related to healthcare, and gloves are meant to protect and save human lives. And moving forward, the business that we get in also has a lot of emphasis on providing better healthcare, providing healthcare solutions to the world at large. Because if you look at it, health will continue to feature prominently in the lives of many people in the world, particularly after COVID-19. A lot of us realize that health is something that you cannot take for granted. Health is something that you have to pay attention, and governments have to allocate additional budgets to make sure that they take care of their own citizens.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Dato', it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Have a good day ahead.
I've been speaking with Datuk Lee Kim Miao, Managing Director of Top Glove Corp. This has been The Breakfast Grill. I'm Lynn Mark, Bfm 89.9.
The Breakfast Grill is brought to you by U Mobile, unleashing unlimited potential every day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes.